Hi everybody, welcome to Stamping with Melva. I'm Melva Peters and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in British Columbia, Canada. And you can find me online at stampingwithmelva.com. Now it's Wednesday today and it's a technique. Now I will say this video is being pre-recorded because I'm actually away this week, but I wanted to make sure I was able to get lives done for you and have this. So I've been doing pre-recordings and they will post at the regular times through the week. So I will check the comments afterwards, but I won't actually be live with you. So I hope you enjoy this. This is stained glass technique. And so I'm using the Darling Details bundle for this. I think it's perfect. You need kind of a big image that you actually use your blends and you use vellum. So I'll show you how to do it. It's really kind of a cool technique. It's quite subtle. And so you do need quite bright colors to do it with. But let me show you how to make this, make card using this technique. All right, let me switch over and we'll get started. Okay, so first of all, let me grab a couple of things that I forgot here. I think this is, no, that's real red. I need Berry Burst. No, that's Cherry Cobbler. Gosh, I'm doing real well. Get my Stampin' Blends here. There we go. Berry Burst and Pretty Peacock. Okay, so first of all, this is the Darling Details bundle. Now I've used this before. I love this. I've used this on a live I did. You can actually weave ribbon through this particular die. It's an edge. You've got two ones that cut out. These don't actually cut out the frame, so you need to cut the square or the rectangle in the shape you want, and then you can cut the frame. It looks like this when you actually cut it out. It's really pretty. The same with this one. Cuts a frame. Again, you have to cut that shape first. And then, of course, you've got the dies to cut out your stamped images. And there are some extra ones here as well. So this one cuts out a stamped image in some of them, but some of them are extra ones that are just really pretty. This is the bundle that we're using for Your Creativity Awaits for the month of August. So if you're interested in getting a kit with 6 cards, this is the bundle. It's a really great deal. You get the stamp set and you get 6 cards with the PDF instructions to make the 6 cards. And 2 of them are fancy folds. All right. If you're interested in that, there's more information on my blog. Okay, so let's put this aside and I'll show you what I'm going to use. Trimmer. Okay, so I've got a piece of Berry Burst. I've gone ahead and already scored it. So this is 4 1/4 by 11. I've scored it at 5 1/2. And as always, we fold into the mountain or the raised line and give it a really good burnish with your bone folder. That's our card base. I went ahead and cut one of these frames. Now, I will admit I actually kind of cut it after the fact, but if you cut a piece of cardstock that is 4 1/2 by, let's see, okay, so let's do it that way. 4 3/4, sorry, 4 3/4 by 3 1/2, you will get a frame that looks like this. Now run it through. I ran it through a couple of times and most of the little dots poked out. So if probably I had run it through one more time, I would have been rid of all these little dots that are in this. So if you want the little dots out, because they do look really cool when you've got a dark cardstock behind it. Okay, so I think that's all of them. Okay, so it looks really cool as a frame, and the white on the Berry Burst is so pretty. But I thought what I'd do is for my card base, this is the crosshatch. You can see that, the crosshatch embossing folder. This comes in the 3D Basics 3D embossing folders. There are 3 different ones. So I'm just going to emboss the front of my card base using this. Let me just grab my Stampin' Emboss machine. So we will just take and run this through. You always want to make sure when you're running embossing folders through that you either run the seam, the fold, or the open end first, not the sides. There was a time when the embossing folders, they were splitting, and they thought it was because people were running them through with the sides of the embossing folders going through first. And so you want to run them through with either this open end or the folded seam going through first. So there is my card base, just a really pretty subtle. So I'm just going to take and use my bone folder again just to give that a good burnish. Okay, so I want to pop this up. So we'll do that in just a minute, but let's work on some of the embossed or the stained glass. You can either use StazOn. StazOn actually works best. If you are using StazOn, make sure you've got StazOn cleaner to clean your stamps, because StazOn is a permanent ink, and so you will permanently stain your stamps if you use the StazOn ink. And so you need the cleaner, and it will clean off that StazOn. Now I'm trying to find which die I want to use. I think I will use the one that says, or not die, sentiment, just a note. I kind of like that one. So we're only using the detailed, kind of the outline of this flower, and then the outline of the leaves. The rest we're going to color. So when you've got StazOn, don't discard the plastic kind of cover. It keeps the StazOn, and StazOn smells like almonds. So we're going to stamp 2 of these flowers on vellum like that, and then we will stamp 2 of the leaves on the vellum, and we're going to let that sit for a minute. You could use your heat tool if you want to. I might just kind of run it over. It takes a minute for it to dry, so just kind of either be patient and let it dry, or if you're like me, you're not very patient, and we will just kind of run the heat tool over top of it. Now, when you do the stained glass technique, you're actually, so this is the side I've stamped on, so you're actually coloring it. So let's do the leaves first. You're coloring it from the other side. So I'm using Pretty Peacock, and I've got the light. So these are the blends. So I'm really just coloring like I would if I was coloring cardstock, for example. I'm going to go and just color the back inside the lines using my Pretty Peacock. You do need to use a fairly vibrant color, because it will, it doesn't fade. It just isn't as bright as if I was coloring on basic white cardstock. So pick some colors, because otherwise you might be disappointed if you tried to use bubble bath. I always want to call it bubble gum, bubble bath, or lemon lolly. So we're just going to kind of just go over this a little bit with the dark blends. I'm not just trying to add a little bit, but yeah, pick some vibrant colors if you're going to do this technique. Okay, so we're going to let that dry. And then this is the side I stamped on, so we're going to turn it over, and we're going to color these using Berry Burst. And you may notice this is a very vibrant color when you stamp with it, or if you think about how bright it is. But when you color on vellum, it kind of loses some of its color. Now I'm going to show you a little bit of a trick to kind of have a little bit more color show. So I'm just kind of coloring over the whole thing with the light, and then I'm going to go back in and just add a little bit with the dark. The other thing you can do, so I've used Stays On. If you wanted to, you could actually use Versamark and then heat emboss this, or Versamark and then black embossing powder would look really cool. But I just thought that Stays On is really easy to use, as long as you've got some Stays On cleaner. And I don't pull my Stays On out very often. So I'm just kind of going and kind of putting a little bit of dark just to kind of bounce up that color, pop up that color a little bit. So again, I'm going to watch this after. So like, as I mentioned, this is pre-recorded. So I will watch, and if you have questions, I will come back in and just kind of going in and just fill in some of these spots. Like that. Okay. So you can see that it's, if I compare this Berry Burst, it's definitely lighter. But look what happens when I take a piece. So I've just gone ahead and cut this shape out of basic white. If you put a piece of basic white cardstock behind it, it just kind of makes it more vibrant. Compare the two. Just, you can see the pink so much better. So I've cut out 2 basic white flowers and 2 basic white leaves, and they're just going to go in behind my vellum. Okay, so we've got our flowers colored. So let's get the die. So we cut these out with the die. You could fussy cut them if you wanted to, but I'm going to actually use the die. Maybe it goes that way. There we go. It doesn't kind of fit, and as you turn it, it's probably because you've turned it upside or turned it over, and it won't match. All right, so let's use our mini. These pieces are small enough, so we'll put that one through. Oops. Make it so I can actually turn the handle. And there's one. So there is a new stamp set that is part of the online exclusives that I think is called So Very Merry. And it is kind of designed for stained glass technique. So I'm looking forward to that to do for Christmas. All right, so there's the two flowers. You could do 3 if you wanted to, but I'm just doing the two of the big flowers. There's that. So you could use, if you don't have Post-it note tape, I get it on Amazon. You could use Post-it notes or washi tape just to hold your dies in place. I just find it, if I don't do this, they slip and slide, and then I get more white on one side than I want, for example. So it just saves me a whole lot of frustration if I use Post-it note tape. And you can reuse it, so I stick those over. Okay, so there's my die. Okay. All right, so what we're going to do here. Now, one thing to note is when you use adhesive behind your glue dot or behind vellum, it tends to show. I am going to use glue dots, and I'm just going to use one single glue dot, hoping it won't show too much because it is colored. Let's see how that is. See, that's not too bad. Because it's colored, I think it's better. If you just put a glue dot behind plain vellum, you will see your adhesive, and that always bugs me. So if you do this stained glass technique, it tends not to show, but just putting it on white just kind of pops up that color a little bit. All right, and we will do the same on our leaves, because I've cut out two of the leaves. There we go. All right. There are multiple kind of leaves that you could use for this. There are actually ones that have make it look like you could just do the plain one like I did, or there's the ones that have the veining in it. I thought I would just kind of leave it kind of plain with this. There we go. Okay, so now let's kind of bring our card base in. We've got the basics. So that's stained glass technique. Not real hard to do. Pick a stamp that's got an outline to it, and then color the inside on the back. Okay, let's put some dimensionals on this. I'm going to use mini dimensionals, I think. Definitely in the corners. I want to pop this up just a little bit. Don't have to, but I'd like to put a little bit on the edges. So I think what I'm going to do is these mini dimensionals have a bit of an edge on it that works really well if you to cut just really thin pieces. You could use the adhesive foam strips as well. They're a little wider than this, so you typically throw this away. So just use this to cut really thin little strips that will go along the edges. Or if you're really good with your scissors, you could cut the adhesive foam strips into thinner strips. I'm not probably that good to do that. So I'm just putting, that's only kind of half an inch-ish along here. Just want to kind of pop it up and not have the middle sag. Or if you don't want to fuss with this, just glue your frame on flat. That works too. All right, so we're just going to put that in the middle. Isn't that pretty? The white on the berry burst, just so pretty. And then just kind of get it in position and like that. Okay, we've got our frame. So now we're going to just take and we're going to use regular size dimensionals. No, I didn't. I'm going to grab some ribbon. I thought I had ribbon. Here it is. So one of my favorite color combinations is Berry Burst and Bubble Bath. So what I'm going to do is, this is the Bubble Bath ribbon from the sheer ribbon combo. So I'm just going to take, and I don't want a lot of this. So I just want to create some kind of like sprigs. Because I didn't cut any sprigs out to put behind. So let's see, if I cut this, I'll tell you how much ribbon to cut and then we'll fuss with it. How's that? Okay, so if you cut about 10 inches of ribbon, and I'm going to use, if I can find it, my Stampin' Seal. Oops. So I'm just going to take a little bit of Stampin' Seal. It's going to be hidden. And I'm going to just take and tuck this ribbon like this, and a little bit more, and then there. Okay, so I've got kind of folded into 2 loops, and these pieces, if you want, can tuck underneath your frame, but they're going to be hidden with my flowers. So let's put some dimensionals on the back of the flowers. Okay. So we're just going to put this kind of down here in the corner. I want my ribbon to show up. So we'll do it like that. And then I'm just going to take, and I'm going to use glue dots for my leaves. Pop a glue dot on there, and a glue dot on there. So we'll just kind of tuck that underneath like that. And underneath, kind of like that. Just there we go. Okay, now we need a sentiment. Can't have a card without a sentiment. Well, I guess you can, but okay, we're going to stamp that just a note like that. And then let's, this is the inside of the card. So this is 4 inches by 5 1/4. I'm going to take a different stamp because I haven't cleaned that one that I've got used stays on. So let's use this kind of half flower. And we will just stamp that down in the corner. And that's, there is, this is 2-step stamping. This bundle, the stamp set is intended for 2-step stamping. So let's just take that and gently stamp off. It's also a distinctive stamp, so it's really cool. There we go. So that can be on the inside of the card, leaving lots of room to write a note since this is a note card. Okay, so let's do that. Oops, I kind of splodged that. Let's got some ink on my fingers. So let's I can't really cover that. Oh well, nobody will see. Pretend you don't see those little splodges. All right, I was going to try and cover them up with leaves, but one of them's too far away to do that. I might have to fix that. It's going to bother me. Let's see what I can do. Let's take and where is there it is. Okay, let's try and we're going to just stamp another flower because that splodging is bothering me. There it is. So let's try and just kind of do that. There we go. Kind of hidden it. So we'll do 2 flowers there in the corner. You'll keep my secret, won't you? There you go. Okay, got 2 flowers in there. That's a little better. Makes me a little happier. All right, and then I had my little note. It's probably because I got ink on my fingers. Let's use glue dots or dimensionals. And just put that kind of right there. Straight would be good. There we go. And then the last thing I have is this is the trio, sequence trio, and there are both white. I think the white might be pretty. There's white, pretty peacock, and kind of a pinky color that's kind of berry burst, but I think the white might look nice on the white or on the berry burst. So there's 2 sizes. So let's just put 2 of that one and that. There we go. All right, that is the stained glass technique. So if you have any questions as you're trying this technique out, please reach out to me, leave a comment, let me know how you like the video. Yeah, there we go. I'm just going to sit back. And that wouldn't have worked because I had the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine on my little stool. All right, everybody, thanks so much for joining me tonight. I will be back live next week. So this is Wednesday. I have another live for you that I've pre-recorded for tomorrow night, and then again on Saturday and Sunday. And then I will be back live a week yesterday, basically. So hope you enjoy these videos. And hope you have a great day. Happy stamping.